Am I the a-hole for deliberately giving my chronically late friend the wrong time? I, 20 female, have a friend who is chronically late. I'm not talking 5 or 10 minutes. If we agree to meet at 6, she will usually show up at 6:45 or 7. We've talked about it so many times, and every time she apologizes and says she'll do better. It's caused problems before. She was almost an hour late to another friend's birthday dinner, and we lost our reservation. She was also late to our friend's going away party and missed most of it because everybody had already started saying their goodbyes. Once she was supposed to pick me up for a doctor's appointment and showed up 50 minutes late, so I still had to take an Uber and still ended up missing the appointment. I had to pay a cancellation fee and reschedule it. I can name 20 such instances from the top of my head. The thing is that really gets me is if someone else is late, even by 10 to 15 minutes, she'll sometimes make a huge deal about it. It's happened maybe twice, so I don't want to exaggerate it, but it definitely feels hypocritical given how often she's late herself. At this point, our friend group has basically learned to expect it from her. Last week, a few of us were going out for dinner. We had a reservation for 6:30, so I told everyone to be there by 6:15. She said she'd leave her house at 6. At 6:20, she texted saying she was leaving now. I was honestly fed up, so I DM'd her that the reservation was postponed at 7 instead. Everyone else knew what I had done. We got there at 6:15, had dinner, and when she finally showed up at 7:35, she was obviously pissed that we'd already eaten. I asked her why. She asked her why I'd lied to her, and I told her that when I gave her the actual time, she doesn't show up until an hour later anyway. She said that was completely different and that I deliberately set her up to be late. She also said she trusted me to give her the correct time and that I had no right to teach her a lesson. I told her I was tired of constantly waiting for her and having everyone else's plans revolve around her lateness. She called me manipulative and said she doesn't want to make plans with me anymore. Am I the a-hole? Okay, this is actually a surprising take because usually when people say this, they just tell them an earlier time so that they arrive on time. Telling them a later time so that they are going to miss it is kind of a-hole-ish behavior. I'm not going to lie. That part is rude. Her friend is rude, full stop. To be consistently late to the point that people are depending on you because you promised that you would show up on time, and then you being late enough to cause them to lose reservations, to miss doctor's appointments. Your friend is rude, full stop. Telling them a later time than the actual time so that they're like doubly late is rude. I'm just going to say it, full stop. The way you should handle this is you just stop inviting them, or you get reservations at places that don't require the full party there, and then you just start eating, or you stop depending on them to be there. That's the only way that you can deal with it when it's a person that's chronically late, is to just stop depending on them for being there and stop making plans that require everyone to be present. And you just say, like, if you're there, but we're not waiting, right? That is the reasonable way to deal with it. But hot take, I actually do think it does make you the a-hole to intentionally make them late on purpose, because that is what happened here. You told them that it was later than it was. And the fact that they were even later than that doesn't change the fact that you like sort of intentionally sandbagged them. Like, you're kind of the a-hole. You're obviously fed up with a friend being the a-hole about it, but I actually kind of think you're an a-hole for it. Two people can be the a-hole in a situation. Like, the fact that the friend is a hypocrite about it makes me even less receptive, but this person still consciously made a choice to shame this person by intentionally giving them the wrong time. Yeah, like, I actually think that you should just be a bigger person and deal with it better. You know what I mean? Everybody sucks here. OP needs to invite her to things like parties where it wouldn't matter as much, but dinners and reservations should only be involved if they can't be on time. Turning it into a stunt is the low road. Exactly. Do I sympathize? Yes, but yeah, you're still a jerk. A lot of people are asking why I don't just give her an earlier time. We actually tried that. We tell her things started 30 minutes earlier, and eventually she'd figure it out and start treating it as a fake time too. At this point, the entire friend group is just exhausted. We've all waited for her, missed reservations, rearranged plans around her, and heard the same "I'm sorry, it'll never happen again" speech dozens of times. I think everyone was pretty much at the point where nobody wanted to keep accommodating it anymore. I know lying to her wasn't exactly mature and was kind of petty on my point, but honestly, I was frustrated and wanted her to understand how ridiculous it feels when someone constantly treats your time like it doesn't matter. Again, disagree with Reddit. You are the a-hole. The other person is also the a-hole, but the other person being an a-hole to you doesn't mean that you aren't an a-hole to them. It's not a zero-sum game, okay? both of you can be the a-hole in this situation. I think full stop. Sorry, like, you decided to be a jerk to them to prove a point. That's how that works. She said she doesn't want to make plans with me anymore. Oh no. Anyway. Yeah. I had a friend like this, and we all learned to try and be we all tried to be accommodating. Then we all just started without them. Late for dinner? Tough luck. Yeah. Exactly. It's amazing how people can start showing up to things once they start missing things. Yeah. Your friend is chronically late, so instead of telling her an earlier time, you told her a later time. Why? Yeah, exactly. No, the difference between being unprovoked is not the same thing as not being a jerk. You know what I mean? Like, you still did a jerky thing. Am I the a-hole for offering to buy my parents a home instead of just giving them the money? Oh, that's juicy. Ooh. I mean, we're talking a lot of money right now. My husband and I live in the Great Lakes region. We are both professionals and we have children in high school/college. We've done reasonably well. You've done very well if you can offer to buy somebody a house. We've done reasonably well and have built up significant savings, but we're definitely not wealthy enough that $300K is money we can just give away. Apparently it is, but my parents are in a bad financial situation. They own a house, but they are heavily in debt on it, so they live in the basement and rent out the main floor. They believe they have about $400,000 in equity. We think they're being wildly optimistic. They have a large mortgage with significant penalties, a HELOC, I don't even actually know what that stands for, and property values have fallen. We think they'd be lucky to walk away with 200 grand, possibly less. Earlier this year, they found an apartment they liked for roughly $300,000 and asked us to co-sign a loan to buy it. We refused because of their financial history. Instead, we offered to buy the apartment ourselves and let them live there for a fraction of market rent. They loved the idea. We just needed several months to arrange our finances. This is a major commitment for us. We have children of our own and retirement to fund. The reason we can justify spending $300K is that we'd like to own the property. We'd essentially be moving part of our retirement savings into real estate while giving my parents secure, affordable housing. Eventually, we could sell it to fund our retirement. This is more logical and slightly less out of touch money-wise than I was thinking. It's not necessarily a bad idea to buy a property that you hold on to and then can sell later and basically just let somebody live there rent-free than it is to like buy it for them, if that makes sense. We finally got everything arranged and told them we were ready. Now they've decided the apartment they wanted 6 months ago is too small and they couldn't possibly live there. Instead, they found a much more expensive condo they like. The condo fees alone are over $1,100 a month. They insist they can afford it because they're counting on getting $400K from their house. The problem is they now seem to think the money we were prepared to spend buying an apartment is essentially their $300K. Their proposition is that if we're willing to spend that much helping them, why not just give them the money so they can combine it with their equity and buy what they actually want? Your parents are not only the a-holes, they are stupid. They're stupid. Anyway, we'll finish the story. I can see how our position might seem controlling. We'll spend $300K helping you, but only if we own the property. But to us, there's an enormous difference between investing $300K in an asset we own and simply giving away $300K of our family's savings. Yes, that is a huge difference. You owning the asset is a completely different proposition than you giving away the asset or the money. You are correct. That is a much more sound financial decision that still has a positive upside for your family. That's not the same as just giving money away. Our offer still stands. We'll buy a reasonable apartment around the original price and own it, and they'll live there very cheaply. If they want the expensive condo instead, that's their choice, but we're not giving them $300,000. Am I the a-hole for offering to buy my parents a home, but refusing to just give them money? Great. This is actually like slightly less juicy, but basically kind of what I was going for. This is actually very, very interesting. This is definitely a situation where somebody is leveraging the money that they've saved up and choosing to use it in a way that is very beneficial for somebody while still looking out for themselves and their children. The important thing here is that this is a couple with children that are trying to accommodate their parents who are financially illiterate and in a bad financial situation. And they are doing it in a very responsible way, saying, I will buy a property, you can live in it for cheap, but we own it because it's our money, it's our future, and it's our children's future. And we are not going to, pardon the pun, mortgage our children's future to bail you out, which is something that boomers seem to love doing a lot, is mortgaging their children's future. But anyway, not the a-hole, actually very, very intelligent people making this and in a very compassionate way, because they're not even saying they're charging them like regular rent. They're just like, we'll take a little bit of money, but like very cheap, like way cheaper than rent would be, right? They are giving you the best possible scenario. And the fact that not only are the parents incorrect about their net worth and incorrect about the way that they've spent their money, and they are looking a gift horse in the mouth by saying like, oh, actually, we want more. Like, how do you think you got into that situation in the first place? Okay. All right. Absolutely. 1000% not the a-hole. In fact, extremely responsible OP. And it's extremely difficult because it is their parents. I completely understand why they're having these problems and like why this is difficult, why this is a difficult situation. Because it's not just some stranger, right? This isn't some person that's like asking for money and you're like, I'll buy you food, but I won't like just give you money. Like this is a substantial amount of money, and they're doing it in a way that is respectful and kind and basically the best of all worlds. And if they're looking at that saying, no, that's not good enough, we just want you to give us the money because that's basically the same. It's not the same. It's not the same. Giving someone money is not the same as loaning somebody an asset that you still own. And that should be obvious. Like if you say you can drive my car for a month, that doesn't mean I'll give you the money to buy or rent a car. That's like because you still own the car, right? Like that's not the same, brother. Not the same. Yes, good on the OP for learning from their parents' mistakes. Not the a-hole. Full stop. Full stop. Not only not the a-hole, very intelligent. Very intelligent. Now I want to read the edit. I'm sure the edit is like, thanks, Reddit. Thanks for backing me up. Edit. I want to emphasize that our real fear is that mom will spend another winter living in the basement. It is horrible. Also, they could very well end up homeless. We can't let that happen. Okay, that also shows that you have a very real concern for them. However, you need to take care of your own future, and you providing them with a solution that if they choose to look at a gift in the mouth and spit on it, that's their responsibility. Not only are they adults, they're your parents, okay? You can't be responsible for your parents' bad choices for their whole life. Edit 2, we understand they'll probably be terrible at paying rent. We are basically going to ask for enough to cover the condo fees and taxes. Even that might be a challenge. Financially, this is a terrible plan, but the alternative is mom spending another winter in the basement apartment, which we feel terrible about. Update. This has blown up a bit more than I expected, so I showed this to my partner, and then we sat down with ChatGPT, and came up with a financial plan for ourselves to retire comfortably in 5 years. We're in our early 50s. We will take this to a financial advisor to make it happen. We're still going to have to keep a reserve to deal with parents to keep them from being homeless when their financial decisions catch up to them. But yeah, if they just want to throw away my money, then forget it. I can retire early and in comfort instead. Edit to be clear, ChatGPT was just giving us ideas of a timeline of what to do. We do not trust it fully or even very much. We'll be taking the plan to an advisor to actually figure out what to do. Okay. Wow. So it sounds like they're not even going to go through with buying the apartment and letting them rent it. Talk about shooting yourself in the foot, parents. Holy mother. Holy mother. That's crazy. That's crazy. Not the a-hole. Talk about choosy beggars. Yep. I don't know why the parents rejecting their offer changes their behavior versus the status quo. Well, I think what it is that it's more like they're just going to invest that money in a way that lets them retire off of it, as opposed to in a asset that isn't liquid, right? I think basically it's like if they're not spending this money on property, then they can probably just retire. And I think Reddit is probably encouraging them to just say, screw your parents, retire, you know? Which I understand that like the opportunity cost of spending that money versus not spending it is potentially the difference between early retirement or not. But don't undermine your children's future by giving away their safety net. Yep. They voluntarily live in a basement, but the new apartment you are talking about is too small. This is not a risk I would take. This is an ass-saving significant thing you are doing for them, and they see it as, they're willing to buy that one. Let's see if they'll get this one instead. Yeah. Not the a-hole. Honestly, I would walk away from the entire arrangement. They sound like they would stop paying rent to you at some point. Not the a-hole. You're being very generous and thinking ahead of what you may need for your kids and your own retirement. Stick to your offer and don't waver. If it were me, I'd pull the exceptionally generous offer. If your parents are so certain they'll get $400K, they can evict their main floor tenants and sell and use the proceeds on a down payment for their bigger dream apartment and mortgage it. Okay, yeah. I don't know. It is, the update is weird talking about like, we're going to retire instead. But, you know, when they're getting to that age, it is what it is, I guess. If you're enjoying this content, I would really appreciate it if you could drop a like or subscribe and let me know in the comments what you're enjoying about this, or if you have any takes that disagree with mine. Okay, thanks. Back to the video. Am I the a-hole for banning my friend's kids from our lake house after she dropped them off unsupervised? They almost drowned and lost all my husband's gear. Ho, good old life-threatening emergencies. A friend of mine called my husband and asked him if her kids could go to the house and do some fishing. We expected her to come with them. They were supposed to bring their fishing equipment. She did not stay. She dropped them off and left. She actually dropped one of her sons with a friend, a kid we don't know. The children forgot their equipment and took my husband's rods and fishing gear. On top of that, they got in the kayak without permission. I do not blame the kids, as they are kids. They went to the middle of the lake and flipped the kayak, almost drowned, and lost all my husband's fishing gear. The neighbors rescued them as I was not home yet or aware of this whole situation. She's now blaming it on the friend of her kid as she knows her son. I called her furious and banned her, the kids, the husband, and pets from the property and demanded reimbursement. She's acting as if I'm being irrational. Am I the a-hole? No. So let me just make sure that I'm reading this correctly. So she just dropped off kids, abandoned, nobody home, and just kind of said, YOLO, do it. And then they went out and almost drowned themselves. That's an insane level of irresponsibility. Potentially, if the person writing this was home and was just inattentive, that's one thing. But if somebody just dropped people off at somebody else's house and did not check that there were parents there to supervise and then just left, that's 100% on them. And yeah, obviously, you know, kids are kids. That's the OP has a mature reaction to that. But that is absolutely insane. Not the a-hole. I don't think there's anything even to question about this. Girl, your kids destroyed expensive equipment and is now mad because she caused the situation. Yeah, absolutely insane. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. I bet the poor kid's parents had no idea he would be unsupervised. Totally agree. Not the a-hole and sue your friend. She doesn't reimburse you for what the kids destroyed. Again, I don't know about getting lawsuits involved, but absolutely not the a-hole and absolutely fine to ban people. Not the a-hole, but report her for child endangerment to small claims court if she doesn't reimburse you. I don't know. Again, like reporting people for child endangerment, while it is true that that is what happened, that's where it gets tough, because obviously I think breaking families up is not good. It's also really bad to like put kids into the system. You know, it's really difficult from an outsider's perspective to make that call that, you know, that they should be like taken away from their parents for reckless endangerment. However, that is pretty reckless. That is pretty endangering. So I don't know. That's the hardest part of this story is like how I think they should have responded, you know? Am I the a-hole for telling my friend he can come to our outings, but his girlfriend with OCD can't? English is not my first language, so I'll try to be brief. I, 20 female, have a group of friends I've known since school. We don't see each other often anymore because adulting is chaotic, but we try to get together every 2 months or so. There's about 6 people in this group, including Mark, 22 male, who recently got a girlfriend that we will call Sarah, 21 female. Sarah has bad OCD and has loads of rules to what she can and can't tolerate, which originally wasn't a problem. Some of us are also neurodivergent / have conditions that require adaptations. So we adapted our outings whenever she wanted to come since she was polite and nice. Good start that they're trying to accommodate for neurodivergence and challenges. That's a good start already. Everything was fine for a few months until one of our friends casually asked about my dermatitis and if it was better. I have contact dermatitis, which is not contagious in any way, shape, or form, but flares up often. Sarah heard it and deemed me a contaminated person. Okay. Ever since then, she's been treating me like I have the plague. She won't touch anything I have touched, won't sit near me, and will make a disgusted face anytime I'm around, which at first I took. She has a condition. I don't care what she does, but she started doing it to other people, like warning people not to sit near me, and once at a restaurant told a waiter to be careful not to touch me when he handed me my glass or would contaminate himself and everyone he served. Talk about looking a gift horse in the mouth or biting the hand that feeds you. A group that tried to go out of their way to accommodate your challenges, and then like you're incorrectly assigning to people that they are like gross and contaminated, like ooh. Here's where I may be the a-hole. Okay, great. We were planning our next get together, and I told the group that if Sarah was coming, I wouldn't go. I don't deserve to be treated like a monster for something entirely out of my control and harmless to others and be shamed by it. Since the group was already bothered, we all decided that Mark was welcome, but we didn't want Sarah around until she dealt with that fear. He wasn't online at the time, so I texted him in private and explained that Sarah was making everyone uncomfortable. We'd prefer she didn't come until she could work through at least not telling everyone not to touch me. I also said we understand if he didn't want to come without her. She's his girlfriend after all, and he has to support her. A few hours later, he blew up, called me an ableist a-hole, and said Sarah had seen the messages and hadn't stopped crying, and then blocked all of us when he saw the group agreed. Am I the a-hole? Should I have not said something to the group and just pretend like I didn't hear it? We have updates, but I'm going to comment on this before we read the updates because they often change the tone of things a lot. I have OCD and know people who have it severely can be very disruptive, so I understand. It's not because of her OCD. I would say that this person isn't able to be in groups with the activated person because they can't let it go. She needs a therapy for her condition. Yes. It's very difficult. And I think the thing is that the OP made every attempt to help assist and accommodate the other person that has the OCD, and even was willing to like look past the feeling that that person viewed her as gross. That's already more than she really needed to do. But once it advanced to a place where she was like actively trash talking her and like saying it to waiters and things like that when it's not accurate and is entirely on the other person, that's the point where you say, okay, listen, this is my group of friends and you're making all of us uncomfortable about this with your behavior towards me that has no basis, right? And I think that that's a completely reasonable thing to say. And it does not make you the a-hole for standing up for your own boundaries and your own needs and comfort, and especially when it's not accurate, right? They tried to give her as much latitude as they could. And they didn't even say we never want to see her again. They said she needed some therapy to help her work through this challenge. And that is completely reasonable. The fact that she's taking it hurtfully, like, yeah, maybe that does hurt your feelings, but you're hurting somebody else's feelings, unfortunately. It hurts to hurt somebody, or it sucks to hurt somebody's feelings, but she had no choice. Yep. Contact dermatitis isn't even gross. It's a rash caused by irritants. Yeah, right. It seems like they are trying to accommodate, even if she was like, I don't want to touch you anymore because it's like grossing me out. And she was like even willing to tank that, but once you start getting to the point where you're like telling other people not to interact with somebody because they're diseased and that's not the case, like, I'm sorry, but that's on you, We have an edit. Obviously, the boyfriend is like in a tough situation because he's sort of getting an ultimatum about it. And obviously this is hurting the girlfriend's feelings. So like, I think he should have handled it better as well, but I at least have sympathy for him being stuck in the middle here. Yeah. Edit. So that post certainly gathered more attention than I intended it to. Already saw one of those voiceover videos about it. Ha! Hi, Reddit. I just wanted to thank everyone for the responses, especially the people who broke it down for me a lot and helped me see that although some things could have been handled differently, I wasn't overreacting. Our next hangout is in 2 weeks. We're all currently still blocked, but I'll make sure to post an update on the subreddit if anything else ever comes of it. Edit 2, I'd also like to add that some people were questioning me saying, is this a rage bait post for using OCD for engagement? I didn't expect it to blow up at all and do not mean to minimize issues people with OCD go through. I genuinely wish you all the best with managing your symptoms. I'm not a doctor. I only said that Sarah has OCD because she told us that. I don't ask people for their medical records. Also, someone sent me a DM saying this is rage bait because my English is good. Thanks, I guess. Well, fun fact, a lot of people where English isn't their first language actually have better writing skills than people for whom it is their primary language, because a lot of us forget or didn't learn the rules very well growing up. We just sort of intuited them and or have gotten lazy and sloppy. So there's often an illusion that people that are ESL have better, well, maybe not even an illusion, maybe a fact, have better English than we do, especially in written form. Not the a-hole for sure. It's a tough situation. Obviously, we are all about making accommodations for people within reason, and it sounds like they made every effort to. But as somebody with challenges, at a certain point, you have to understand that it is your responsibility how you act and how you plan and how you interact with people. And the fact that you have challenges does not excuse you being an asshole towards people. So, full stop. Almost certainly because of the OCD that it was causing this maybe like revulsion reaction. And nobody is saying that that isn't something that she feels and isn't caused by that. It's what you do about it and how you treat the people that's what's important here, right? And that's a hard lesson to learn, right? Like people have all sorts of challenges, and they can give you grace for the things that are affecting you, but that doesn't give you license to treat people poorly, Especially something that can't be reversed or cured. Exactly. Yep. She was extremely rude, not controlling her face and words when she was around OP. Yeah. Okay, let's read some of the comments. Unfortunately, she is making her fear not just everyone else's problem, but is actually being rude and bad-mannered about it, and I can't understand why she doesn't know that. OCD doesn't make you rude, and her OCD is her condition to manage. Her boyfriend can support her all he likes, but that doesn't make her behavior right. So, not the a-hole. Yeah, pretty much what we've been saying. It's an unfortunate thing to be dealing with, but, you can try and be understanding. That doesn't mean you have to take abuse. Not the a-hole. OCD doesn't compel her to publicly shame you. As somebody with an OCD diagnosis, I've learned that it isn't healthy for the people in my life to enable me with my compulsions. You are right to set this boundary, not only for your own comfort and sanity, but for hers as well. I'm sorry she's made those comments about you to others. That is really unfair and very hurtful. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Why should you subject yourself to Sarah's attacks? Mark should have told her to stop the very first time she spoke against you. Yeah, again, tough to be put on the spot as the partner of somebody that's having a challenge like this, but not the a-hole. Tell your buddy that he's forgetting rule 1. The right to swing your fist ends at my nose. Her disability does not entitle you to actively harm others. Yep, sure. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help set up my friend's wedding after he lied about the start time? Oh, I mean, probably not. If somebody's lying to you, you're probably not the a-hole for not responding well to it, just starting off. My male friend, I'm male too, invited me to his wedding and told me to be there at 10 a.m. I turned up with my wife around 9:45. The wedding was actually at midday. He deliberately got me there 2 hours early so he could rope me into setting up gazebos, dragging tables out, and carrying loads of equipment up a steep hill. I turned up dressed smart, ready for a wedding. He basically said he picked me because I'm strong and do DIY for a living. I am not the best man. I'm not even getting to be one of his 6 ushers, none of which were there yet because they were, quote, getting ready. He had about 100 guests he could have asked. I wasn't even invited on the stage. He could have easily sorted the setup the day before or hired people. Anyway, I said no, definitely not. I've actually had some neck and back troubles recently, and I was already dressed for the wedding. I also didn't want to have to leave my wife sat on her own for hours while I did construction jobs. I said he should have asked in advance, and I could have said no, so he could make other plans rather than tricking me. His response was, "Hey dude, I'm giving you a free meal later. You could at least lend me a hand to earn it back." Wow, your friend is the a-hole. I don't even need to finish this story, but we might as well just to see how bad it gets. Good Lord, brother. I told him I'd traveled a long way, paid for a hotel, and brought a wedding gift so I could be part of his day. Being invited doesn't mean I also owe him manual labor on the morning of the wedding while I'm in my suit. He was cold with me during the reception and made a point of jokingly bitching about me to whoever I was chatting with throughout the day. At one point, I'd had enough and I said, "Serves you right for being a cheapskate about your own wedding," in a jokey way in front of his bride. But now I'm second guessing myself. Am I the a-hole or was I right to say no? Yeah, not the a-hole. Obviously there's social pressure to say yes anyway, but it's obvious. This person obviously was manipulating you into feeling guilty to help him do something for free and not giving you any recognition for it. We had a story just the other day about the bride, or rather a bridesmaid that was upset that she was being expected to do all of the maid of honor stuff without being the maid of honor. And at the time, what I said was, to me, it's a little bit strange because I didn't expect our maid of honor and our best man to be doing a lot of the things that were expected of her. And maybe that was just on me for not being up on what wedding traditions are. Our man of honor, or our maid of honor, and our best man did not have a lot of responsibilities that these people were being expected to do. But this is very similar, but sort of in reverse. Being expected to do, or not even in reverse, just very similar. Being expected to do manual labor for somebody without being told that that's why you were being invited is very disrespectful and very manipulative. And to his point, there's a dozen people going up on stage that should be helping with that, or more realistically, probably getting hired help to do it. So absolutely not the a-hole. You don't deserve to be somebody's pack mule, especially when you're injured, and triply so when you've been manipulated into doing it. If they asked you, that's a different story, but they just expected you to do it and lied to you about when to show up. Like, absolutely, the absolute gall of this guy. Holy. It's one thing if you're asked ahead of time to come early and to help set up. And even then, you're still not obliged to, right? I would say that you probably should make your best effort to try if somebody's asking for your help, but you are certainly not obliged to, certainly not if you have an injury. But to have been lied to about it is like, it's so scummy, absolutely insane. I can't even imagine living a life where that's just like normal to you, to treat people like this. I think one of the most consistently interesting and shocking things to me is to see how other people just treat people regularly. And I just like, I can't even imagine them doing it. You know what I mean? Insane. Not the a-hole, but your friend sure is. He should have been upfront about his plans for your help. You can't ever assume people can just do free labor on the spot. Such an a-hole move. I'd honestly be reevaluating my friendship at this point. Exactly. 100%. Not the a-hole. Your friend is a prick. Yep. I take it you're from the UK. Is it normal to not receive a formal invitation via mail with the date and time of the ceremony? Being in the States, I wouldn't even show up to a wedding unless I received a formal invitation. They just sent the details by email. Now you have me wondering if everyone else got the proper paper invitation. Imagine everybody else gets a paper invitation and then they just contact you directly to try and like get labor out of you, but like do it in a different method so that you don't know. Ooh, so gross. It's even more assholey if he only asked the OP and no one else at the event. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like they just asked the OP because they're like, oh, you work in this. Similarly, I worked at a moving company, and none of my friends ever tried to like con me into helping move them because I worked at a moving company before. Now, I did get asked to help people move, but I wasn't the only one. I was, it was like a big group of friends, like one of those, hey, can you guys all help me move? We'll buy pizza and beer. I could really use it. And sometimes I said yes, and sometimes I said no. And I certainly lent my expertise with like, here's how you pick this up. Here's how we're going to move this. But I was never the expectation for me because I had that experience, Honestly, it actually, a lot of the time it ended up annoying me because I had the knowledge that I'm like, no, you people are going to hurt yourself. Like, stop. No, safe words. Not the a-hole. Friend is the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for telling my coworker to come pick up her child early? So I have a coworker who I'm pretty friendly with at work. We always talk about trying to find some time to hang out more, but it's hard as I work 2 jobs and also have 2 kids with autism, so my schedule is pretty packed. Coworker asked if I could watch her 7-year-old every now and then so her and her hubby could get a break. Last night I was on a trial run to see how she fares in our house, like if she gets along with the 2 toddlers or if she's getting overstimulated, etc. Her daughter is also special needs, so she asked me specifically if I could do this, and I agreed for the trial. My trial run was described to me as, we'll drop her off for a little and we'll go grab some dessert nearby like ice cream and come back. Not too long. In my head, I'm thinking, okay, that doesn't sound too bad. I can totally hang out with her for a dessert date. I get to my house around 7 p.m. where we chit-chat a little bit about our workday earlier. Then I hear, are you hungry, sweetie? Oh yes, I'm quite hungry. This is where I start messing up. I didn't call out, you didn't feed your child dinner before coming here. Honestly, I'm tired at this point and I didn't feel like I was handling confrontation, so I just asked if she would like chicken nuggets. She was also interested in what my daughter was eating too, so I made her some of that too after her parents left. The little one was a joy and she's so smart. She's normally homeschooled, so I didn't think she didn't have a lot of interaction with other kids or people in general, so she had a lot to say. I sent her mom a fun little update about and a cute video while we were waiting for her parents to return. About an hour later, I get a message saying, we're gonna have dinner. We're at this address. I flash back to earlier when she asked her daughter if she was hungry. Again, I didn't call it out. I just go, that sounds yummy. I was trying to justify it, thinking she had a busy work day while mine was more mild, but I felt a little used. We were coming up on 9 p.m. by the time I was starting to fall asleep. My work days start at 4:30, and I was wondering when she was coming back. So I finally text her that I'm sorry, but falling asleep and I need to go to bed soon. I get the we're on the way text. Another 30 later, they come back and the energy was different. I let her in. I give her a hug hello, asking how was her little date. She gave me a flat, it was fine, and then goes straight to her daughter and gets her shoes on. I felt bad because the little one did not want to leave, so I just stood back and let coworker do her mama thing till little one was ready to go. Coworker said everything was fine after I asked her if she was all right, but I'm having mixed emotions on it all. I started feeling like an a-hole for cutting her date short, even though it was meant to be short. They really seemed like they needed the break. My husband said I shouldn't feel like an a-hole because I already went above and beyond accepting to do this for nothing in return and feeding their little child. What do you all think? Yeah, this sounds like a very clear case of other parents clearly communicated something different and you agreed to one set of conditions. You're not asking them to pick up the daughter early. You're asking them to pick up the daughter after how long they were giving you an expectation that she would be there, right? It's only early to them because they wanted to leave her there longer. You're not this is just bad communication. This is plain and simple bad communication. I'm sure that coworker was annoyed, but she doesn't have any right to be. Right? Coworker has no right to be annoyed that they gave one proposition on time and then the person, and then they stayed longer and stayed longer and stayed it's very irresponsible parenting. I do understand that parents go through a lot and they probably need some time away, and that probably felt very nice until they had to, come pick her up. Maybe they were in the middle of something. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they were in the middle of something and didn't quite finish. Them's the breaks. That's what happens with being a parent. You can't just tell somebody it'll be a quick little trial run and then be gone for 3 hours. That's not how that works. That's not how any of this works. So the OP is not the a-hole. Friends' parents should not have gotten upset. They probably weren't being super malicious, but they were being irresponsible. It wouldn't surprise me if OP is autistic. Autism runs in families, and this kind of social communication, overthinking, and hyper analyzing the mood and worrying that you did something wrong because it made the other person annoyed is very autism coded to me. So she's probably extra stressing herself out about it, but she had a completely reasonable care of this person, was given one proposition and handed something else. I totally not the a-hole. Yeah. Not the a-hole. They used you. She lied. I don't necessarily think I would jump to saying that they was that intense. We'll drop her off a little while and go grab some dessert, like a nearby ice cream. You asked, you have nothing to feel about. She went AWOL on what she originally asked for. You've been warned. Yeah. Am I the a-hole for pushing my sister-in-law to sell her $60,000 engagement ring? My brother's business is going through severe financial issues, and as a result, he and my sister-in-law are in a very bad financial situation. Between my parents, siblings, and other relatives, our family has given them over $150,000 combined to keep them afloat. They have 3 kids under 3 and are stuck in an $8,500 a month lease. Hello? Until early next year. So their expenses are extremely high, even though their financial circumstances have changed dramatically. At this point, I don't think the family is likely to give them much, if any, additional money. Ideally, we would also eventually get at least some of the money we've already given them back. My sister-in-law has an engagement ring that originally cost around $60,000, and I've been pushing for them to sell it. I'm getting a fair amount of blowback for that. I understand that she wouldn't get anywhere close to the original price, and that for an engagement ring is highly sentimental, but it's hard for me to reconcile the family contributing more than $150,000 while they continue to hold on to a luxury asset worth tens of thousands of dollars. At a certain point, it starts to feel like we're subsidizing luxury rather than simply helping a family member through a crisis. If they can sell the ring for a meaningful amount, that money could go towards supporting their kids, paying necessary expenses, or potentially repaying some of the family members who stepped in to help them. Other people think I'm being too harsh because it's her engagement ring and has emotional significance. Am I being unreasonable for pushing them to sell it? I'm gonna say no. I think there's definitely a question of like how much they can get for it, because at a certain point, it's really kind of not worth it. I mean, obviously any amount of money is helpful, but like if they could get $5,000 for a $60,000 ring or something like that, I would probably just say don't sell it. It really depends on how much they think they can sell it for. I completely understand why they don't want to, but at the end of the day, they have 3 kids to be paying attention to and looking after. I would be pursuing other means of financial aid, including getting out of the lease and paying a penalty. Because like at a certain point, the penalty that you pay for breaking your lease is going to be less than the amount of rent you're paying for that insanely expensive lease. It is it is unconscionable to have that expensive of a lease unless you are making absolute gangbusters money. Asking your family to continue subsidizing you for that expensive of a thing and then not making any changes to make that work out is also unconscionable. So I think bringing it up and talking about the financial responsibility and burden that they're placing on other people is totally reasonable. I do get why they're upset about it because it's a wedding ring, obviously. I understand that. It's a bad situation. Like look for other answers, brother. Yeah, the lease is the insane part. It depends on how you sell it. Maybe don't sell it if you don't know how to pawn a ring, in my opinion. Yeah. I feel like fixating on the ring is missing the point of the problem. I think it's because they know it's worth so much money, right? It's like if they had like 40K in like a savings account and they're like, well, we don't want to touch that. And you're like, well, then why are we paying you a shitload of money? Then, I think that's how the OP is looking at it. They're looking at it as like, you have an expensive asset that has emotional value to you, but is not part of your life, as in like, it is not your vehicle to get to business. It is not your house that you're living in. At a certain point, you have to make hard decisions. I think that's where the OP is coming from. However, like, right, there's so much bigger problems causing this in the first place than that they're not addressing and not talking about. So I think not the a-hole for bringing it up. I guess it depends on how much you're pushing it. But at the same time, you need to have responsibility. You need to have financial responsibility, and like expecting other people to bail you out is not reasonable either. And especially to that tune of money. $150,000 is more than a year of that lease. That's like 2 years of that lease, a year and 3/4 maybe. So like, obviously that money is going down the drain because that's not even their cost of living. That's their lease, right? That implies that they're probably spending 10, 12K a month. Brother, I'm sorry, but you got to make some other accommodations. Like your family is not an endless well to be drawing from. We're getting a lot of stories today about, piggy banking your family. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. I think you're wasting your breath. Next time they come asking for money, tell them you don't have any more to give. As long as you're enabling them, she has no reason to sell. Agree with that. You don't have to give them money, If they have options, you don't have to give them money. And if they're not fixing it, that's their choice. Affluenza, very much. Not the a-hole. If you're taking $150,000 from family, the 60K ring shouldn't be untouchable. Yep. To add, sell the main diamond and replace it with glass. Honestly, that's pretty valid too. Listen, that's actually a pretty good compromise. Like, maybe it's because I don't care about if a diamond is like real or lab grown or cubic zirconium rather. It's the bond that counts, not the rock that was excavated with children. You know what I'm saying? That's a pretty good reason. That's a pretty reasonable thing too. Yeah. Like just get a replacement fake diamond. You're the a-hole. Boundaries start and stop with you. If you don't want to subsidize them, that's more than fair, but you don't get to make demands about anyone else's assets. I don't know that that's making demands. I think that that's saying you should do this, but they are ultimately the ones that do it. I don't think that makes them the a-hole. I think they're just basically saying we're done subsidizing you. You're the a-hole, but not for wanting to sell it. The problem is that jewelry is grotesquely overpriced. If you don't believe me, take any piece to a jewelry store and see what they'll offer you for it. They won't even get 25 grand for it. Yeah, I mean, right. That's kind of what I was saying about like, it depends on how much they can get for the diamond, but any bit helps. I honestly just care how shiny it is and the durability, not the price. Exactly. I have a tungsten ring, right? Because I'm like, well, it looks silver and it's invincible. Like, that's all I care about. I don't care if it's not platinum or white gold or I'm like, tungsten. It looks the same, much more durable. Yes. You know what I mean? Like, I could not care less. You're the a-hole. If you can't help them, that's fine, but don't tell her to sell her engagement ring. They can decide what to do. I mean, like, there's some degree to which I agree with that. They're saying like, it's none of your business. I mean, that's fair, but I don't know. They've been asked a lot, and I think bringing up counterpoints is not unreasonable. You know, I don't know. Not the a-hole, not unreasonable. After accepting that much help, they better be selling anything of value. Jewelry resale is abysmal. Assuming it's diamond, it would likely be extremely low. So I'm not even sure it's worth it. Yeah, that's kind of like where I'm at. Yeah.